Well, let's get started. First off, appreciate all of you attending our product spotlight for March. Also want to put our thoughts and prayers out to all of you, making sure that your family, you're safe, you're staying safe out there. And just to let you know, if there's anything that Opinium can do for you, your family, your company, anyway, we're here for you. I wanted to start today by not jumping into the product and being about Opinium and what things that we're doing. It's really about you guys. And I want you to, behind my screen here is a video. It's a community, excuse me, that we've launched called The Future of Work. It is available for all of you. It's loaded with 15 e-learning classes from our partner at Open Sesame. We're also creating different content in there to teach people, not just from working from home, there's a bunch of content there, but specifically how to leverage the tips and tricks that we have done in building this company. Because as many of you know, we're a virtual company. We have people around the world. We have clients in 27 countries, and we've done it all remotely. And so we thought, who else should lead from the front than us to then be able to teach, lead, and give you guys some tips and tricks. So if you want to join it, it's called The Future of Work. You can, we'll have the URL sent out with this. The other thing is, if you want any of this content, we can give it all to you for 100% free. So if you want to put it into your org, if it'll be valuable for you to give to your customers, your partners, your employees, 100% free to you. And if you do want to extend the usage of ViewTrack across your organization, we've also made ViewTrack free to enable the distribution of this content and do that during this pandemic. And to us, it's the way that we can give back. So if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to myself, Tiffany on our team. There's also information on our community about it, but it's called The Future of Work. And this is not just for today during the pandemic. This is really what we believe that work is going to change due to this. And we want this to be a destination site. It will not be used for marketing. We will not market to anybody that logs into this site at any time, not today or in the future. And this is being recorded, so you have that. So again, that's The Future of Work. Let us know if you'd like to get access to that content. All right, so today we're really going to focus on what we see from where the shifting landscape of what's happening in the market, and specifically around two areas, instructor-led training and in-person selling, both of which have been dramatically impacted by this pandemic on a global basis. This is not just impacting certain groups. Every human around the world has been impacted by this. And so really, how can Opinium help you not only navigate today, but also moving forward? So we really wanted to focus on the areas of how you can move from instructor-led training and in-person selling to virtual instructor-led training and virtual selling. In my opinion, instructor-led training, virtual instructor-led training, in-person selling, and virtual selling are really the same thing in the route of what you're trying to do. You're trying to change behavior by providing content, providing training, trying to get people to believe and understand what your message is. And that's not as easy as going from instructor-led training and then turning on a Zoom to actually look at that and go, okay, well, we're here, now we go here. That's not as easy to do that. And the same thing for all my brethren in sales out there. You guys can't just go from working internally and selling internally and then think it's the same experience if you work in this virtual world. You really got to live it in multiple areas. So I want to spend today to really focus on those two areas of the product and what we can do to help you. And we're here to guide you down this path. Okay, first off, you really got to think about your content differently. From an instructor, you have to think about how you're going to deliver that same message, but in this environment. Remember, all they're going to see is your head. And at that, they might not even see barely that much. So ultimately, how are you going to impact them? How are you going to be personal? How are you going to be human through that interaction? It's the same thing for salespeople. You're no longer going to be in front of a PowerPoint. You're no longer going to be in front of that meeting. You're going to be doing this virtually. And there's a lot of things you need to think about before you even get into there. So you really got to think about how you structure your learning differently. You got to think about how you're going to structure your content differently. And you definitely think about how you're going to structure your pitch differently. One of the things that we're doing is we're actually, we live in the deck, which I'm going to talk about later in this presentation. So first off, the thing that I would think about is when an instructor has a presentation or a learning, it's probably typically maybe 1 or 2 hours. But you think about the travel time, you think about the impact of that human, the total time is probably 4 to 6 hours of investment for that instructor to do a 1 or 2 hour class. Well, let's leverage that. Now this instructor is going to be doing that from the comfort of their office or their home, wherever they happen to be working at that time, office being in their home office in this current environment. And now we could actually take that time and say, well, how could we best utilize that time? As compared to just having a 2-hour webinar, we could actually make that 4, maybe 1-hour webinars, very pointed to certain people. And the same thing for your sales professionals. You can't just think about the fact that you have an hour presentation. You got to get there early. You got to get there a little and stay late after the call to maybe have a little bit of that human element. But the router's going to really rethink that entire structure. We're going to get into the next part of this, which is the video and how to introduce to get to that content. So not only get to repurpose your content and think about it from this environment, you really want to start to think about how you can set up the meeting to get the best impact and the biggest behavior change inside that meeting. What we do is leverage Opinium to do that. So we'll create a video. The instructor, I think, should do an introduction saying, hey, I'm Steve Jacobson. I'm going to be your instructor next week. Here's the topics that I'm going to be talking about. Here's the things that we're going to do and the goal that we're going to achieve out of that. Well, using Opinium's video interaction tool, you could actually start to survey inside the video, ask some questions, get some feedback, might dictate how you build your content so it's more personal to that group. But the kicker to this is that people can self-select, if you will, into certain groups, meaning that I answer the questions like this, and because you have a 6 hours instead of the 2-hour meeting, you can start to say, oh, well, people like this that answer these questions, that have this skill level, have these type of inquiries, or have this type of business, let's put them into this class. And these people, let's put into that class. And now you could have a 40-person class that was going to be all together. Now you could have 4 virtual instructor-led training classes broken up in groups of 10 with people that are very like-minded. And to me, that's hugely valuable because now people can become more human and personal. And if you've had 40 people's faces on a screen, which I've done, it's pretty hard to actually impact that change. If you have 10 people, it's actually a lot easier. So highly recommend using our video creation tool to send out an introductory video of that instructor before the meeting. I think a salesperson should do the exact same thing. Hey, Steve, looking forward to that meeting we're having next week. Here's the topics we're going to talk about. Are there any areas that you'd like me to focus on or things like that? Person watches the video, it's a great introduction to them. It gives them know who's going to be selling to them or working with them. And it's an opportunity for you to solicit that information to drive your sales process, to drive what that PowerPoint or however you're going to present your code should be geared towards. So definitely want to get ahead of it and definitely want to introduce yourself, because again, when you do instructor-led training, you're going to meet the people before the class. You're going to be pretty human in that. Salesperson is going to do the same thing. You're not going to have that in this environment. So how can you still get human? How can you still be personal? How can you get to that level to have that connection, that tissue, if you will, with the other humans? Plan, get ahead, create a thank you video or an introductory video. It's very simple, using Opinium's technology or any other video creation tool. Throw some interactions on that, get that out. Very human, but you're also able to get a lot of data to drive that conversation. Next one, and I have to give my friend Carol, I got to give her props on this one. This was such an amazing thing that we were talking about. We're talking about this idea of a producer. So in an instructor-led training class or as a sales professional, you're in front of the camera, if you will, right? You're there. The PowerPoint, what you're instructing is behind you. You're looking at these people. You're very well connected. You're seeing them. You're reading their body language. Are they going up? Are they sitting back? Is their arms folded? All of these things are driving how you're going to do your instruction, and you're going to relate to these humans and sell. But in this environment, you don't have that. All I see is my head. All I see is a bunch of heads. I can't see anything else. I don't know what their body language. I don't know if they're sitting on top of their chair, if they're sitting back. These are all skill sets that we all use that we may not even be aware of, but you are seeing them. In this virtual world, you won't have that. So how do we do it? The instructor and the salesperson needs to be looking at that camera the entire time. They have to have that human connection. They can't look away. They can't look at the screen and look at all these different areas. They got to be looking right at that camera the entire time. So what does that prevent you from doing? You're not actually seeing all the Zoom pictures or whatever technology you're using. All those pictures of those humans, you're not able to see them, because if you're looking over there, you're not looking here. And if I'm looking over there at the pictures on the screen, then I'm not looking at you, and now I've lost that human connection as a sales professional and an instructor. So how do we do it? Have a producer. You should have a second person. Could be an SC, could be a fellow instructor. They're watching the audience. They're actually focused on what's going on. Think of them as, I'm a news anchor and they're the producer saying, hey, go to camera 4, go to camera 3. They're orchestrating that experience and potentially making breakout rooms, potentially saying, hey, let's go put these 3 people in a room and go have a connection with them. That SC or that sales professional, however you play the producer, should be reading the audience, looking at these different people and saying, oh, hey, we're not really connecting there. That actually went up. Their shoulders went forward. Let's actually hit that hard. I think it's an awesome thing to do, and I don't think any of us have really think about that. But we definitely need to have a producer. You need to have 2 people, one person who's leading, one person who's the instructor or the sales professional, and then one person who's really guiding or being the producer of how this stuff fits together. Hugely important, and it's very, very human, because you can have direct communication, even if you got a group of 10, 20, whatever people. That producer can have a conversation directly with some people. Potentially they're chatting with them. Potentially they're asking some questions. It's also an opportunity to measure sentiment, right? So having the 2 people work together in concert is hugely important. The news anchor with the producer, gotta have it. All right, moving on to virtual background and presentation delivery. This is not about Opinium. This is about, I leverage Zoom for this. And as you can see, my presentation's right here. I'm not putting the PowerPoint or whatever I want to present next to my screen. If I do that as an instructor, if I do that as actually a sales professional, I've basically now made the PowerPoint or the deck, that's the most important part, because that's actually what people are looking at, okay? They're not looking at me anymore. And the reality is, we as instructors, we as salespeople are used to being in front. We're used to being, the PowerPoint is just the data. What my message is what I'm impacting the behavior. I have to obviously know my craft. I have to know what I'm talking about to be up there to be the instructor or the sales professional. Talk to the person, be human. Don't put the PowerPoint next to you and then the whole deck, the whole screen becomes the PowerPoint, and you've lost all control of your message, because they could actually make your face go away. They can actually go to a different view and you're gone. And now all they see is the PowerPoint. Their entire presentation, their entire experience is just looking at the deck. And that's not the message that we should be getting across. That's not the message to impact behavior. As a sales professional, as an instructor, our job is to get people to be the way that we want. We want to impact the behavior change. And if the PowerPoint's going to do that, then what is the point of having you there for? You might as well actually just record a voiceover, send that out with the PowerPoint and have it there. Your emotion, your humanity, the way you deliver it, the skill set that these instructors have learned, that you guys have learned, the way that salespeople have learned to be able to be in front of that camera, if you will, to impact behavior by their body language, by their emotion, by the sentiment of their voice and the way they look at you. It's human. We're used to that. So don't put the PowerPoint to your right, put it right in front of you. So our decks, how we do, everything's behind us. We use a green screen for this to be able to be a part of the conversation. We're not presenting, we're presenting, and the stuff behind me is actually the words that on screen that I want to talk about. You got to be front and center, right? I am right here looking at you right now. My content's right here. If you're enjoying the conversation or not, you still have to look. Well, you could bail out, obviously, but with that being said, I'm looking at you, we're having a connection, and the content I have is behind me. Hopefully you like the content and the content I'm sharing with you, but ultimately, I'm front and center. I'm the one delivering the message, and that's very, very important, and it's very human to be that. This is a big challenge for many salespeople I've talked to in the last couple of weeks. They've been asking me. I've got friends at massive Fortune 100 clients or top salespeople, guys that I have absolute respect for, that don't know how to sell in this environment. They're asking me because they know I've done it. What are you doing differently? I've sent them some videos. I've shared them how to do these things. And look, these are tips and tricks that I want to share with all of you. I want to share with our competition. I want people to be human, and I want people to be able to leverage the awesome technology that's available. And the green screen being in the camera is a massive one. Lastly, we're forming a partnership with a company called Get Feedback. They're a great company. And what we want to do here is you really got to think about the survey for a couple different reasons. A, you're moving from potentially instructor-led training to virtual training, at least temporarily, but you might actually stay. You might even have, eventually VILT might become equal to ILT, but it's new. It's a new product for you. How are you going to gauge that product market fit? How are you going to gauge how people are consuming that? So one thing you definitely want to do is have a very user-friendly, awesome survey. The guys that Get Feedback are rock stars on that, okay? But the other part of that is how do you then gauge the retainment? What did they retain 90 days later from a learning side, right? So with our partners that Get Feedback, not only can you have all the virtual training and immediately send an awesome survey, but what you can also then do is 90 days, 60 days, 120 days out, send a new survey, quiz, assessment to see how much they retain. What's really neat is if you do this with your instructor-led training and your virtual training, you can start to standardize on that information. For us sales guys, I'd recommend not necessarily the survey can work, but I'd recommend definitely sending a thank you video. And for my instructors, I would definitely do that as well. Is after your instructor-led, after your sales presentation, record a very human thank you message. It's got to be human. It's got to be connected. You want to remain that tissue. So record a video. Take a few minutes and say thank you for joining my class. And maybe in that, you're going over the topics that you had. And if you want to circle it back, put some interactions into it. Solicit some data from that right there and there. For salespeople, this is critical, guys. You've got to think about the human element. You don't have, that meeting ends at 12 o'clock. People are off. They're gone. If you're an instructor or salesperson, what you have is some time after the class to be a little human. In this environment, it hits 1 o'clock, they're gone. That human element's gone. So how can you still remain that? Highly recommend using Get Feedback. Opinium is building integration with our friends up there that will make this very simple for you, not only for that immediate survey data, but also to do that assessment. And for the sales guys and sales associates out there, highly recommend doing a thank you video. And in that video, you can add some questions and direction using the Opinium interactive video tool. So just to go back, I want to check the time here, make sure Tim doesn't get mad at me. We really got to think about restructuring our content for instructor-led training. It's not as easy as saying, here's what we did in person, now we're going to do it virtually. Same thing for sales professionals, guys. You got to rethink the way you do it. I was talking to my friend Lisa the other day, top salesperson, and she's like, how do I get there? And I'm like, you got to rethink your deck. You got to rethink the delivery mechanism. So don't just assume that it's the same. It's not. You really got to think about it. And we're here to help. We're here to guide, and we're here to actually help you guys get to where you need to be. Video introduction with interactions, definitely do that, right? Hey, can't wait to meet you. Can't wait to be your instructor next week. My name is Steve Jacobson, and here's the things I'm going to go. And it allows you to be human, allows you to introduce yourself and solicit that data, which is hugely important to then flow into the next one, which is really the instructor, salesperson kind of producer with these ideas of breakout rooms, and or how you set up the instruction going from a 1 hour, 2 hour class to 4 1 hour classes. So hugely important. My favorite, the virtual background. I'm literally living my deck. I live the story. I can actually walk you through our entire presentation 100% behind my screen. I've created some videos for you that's also in the flow of work that you can watch there if you're getting any help. But this is so much fun. And by the way, it's just fun too. You can really have people show their personality, what they're thinking about. Highly recommend it. It's a very personal and human thing to do. And lastly, we need to have a really good survey tool. We got to get that data out there. You want to find out how people are transitioning from the instructor-led training to the virtual to make sure that you're on task. And obviously, you want to do that 90 days out, 120 days out, that level 2 type of how did I do, how much did I retain? And from a salesperson perspective, you got to send that thank you video. I think instructors should do the same thing. It's very human. And inside of that, you could also add some interaction. So hopefully this was helpful for y'all. I'm happy to get on a call anytime, happy to talk about these things in more detail. But I hope this was valuable to you. Hope that you can see that Opinium is not just here to, we're a software company. Our commitment is to you as humans. Our commitment is to human success. And our job is to help you get there. And it's not just about us actually trying to deliver software, but it's about us being the right corporate citizen and leading from the front and showing you tips and tricks that we do to be successful. And what you'll find from a product side, a lot of things that we're building are things that we've actually want to use, things that we want to do internally, and then we realize that other people could benefit from them as well. But again, my name is Steve Jacobson. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for any questions that you may have. But again, thank you very much for your time. Okay, so we got no questions today. That's awesome. Thank you guys all for your time. Very much appreciate the opportunity, and reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.